This landlocked country in the Horn of Africa is where humans took their first upright steps and went on to populate the planet. It is a symbol of independence, never colonized by any foreign power. The origin of the world's most celebrated crop, consumed by billions all over the world. It is also home to a diversity of cultures and profound spirituality. Through my previous trips, I knew that Ethiopia is unique within Africa in so many ways. But in this next visit, I was in for more surprises. I traveled to the Northern Highlands, a spectacular landscape once called the chess pieces of the gods. There, I find a primate species that is the last of its kind. Step inside medieval castles that came to be known as the Camelot of Africa and get to know life in this remote mountain region. I had previously come from Kigali in Rwanda and continued on my journey to Addis Ababa. Ethiopian Airlines has managed to keep the continent interconnected with ease. After a quick respite in Addis, I then flew to Gondar in Ethiopia's northern highland region. Country roads lead to the bustling city center, where Emperor Tewodros stands prominently. Considered the founder of modern Ethiopia, the warrior king ended an age of fighting among local warlords and restored unity in the country. Surrounding him, in the area called the Piazza, are Italian buildings in fascist architecture left behind by their brief occupation in the 1930s. Allied and local forces successfully thwarted the Italians in Gondar. Thus, Ethiopia was never colonized by any foreign power. Resting on the foothills of the Simien Mountains, the city is at an elevation of over 2,000 meters or almost 7,000 feet, making it an ideal location to build a stronghold. After generations of nomadic living, the Ethiopian royals decided to settle and build the capital in this area. Gondar became Ethiopia's capital from the 17th to the 19th century, and the remnants of this once great city have become World Heritage Sites. Before I explore these historic and sacred places, I decided to visit the local market first. Since Gondar was founded, it has been an agricultural and market town where people from distant parts of the country come for their needs.
Always interesting for me to walk around the market and get the feel of the whole community. Everything looks colorful.
The market is always a bustling place where everything from grains, produce, and textiles are sold.
And this is the area where they have their traditional clothing. Very colorful, very intricate. Interesting, huh? Nice fabrics.
Cotton has been cultivated in Ethiopia for generations. Women spin the cotton on drop spindles, while the men hand weave the fabric on looms. These traditional white dresses are called habisha kemis, worn by women on religious ceremonies and special occasions. The designs of the embroidery depend on which community it's from. Aside from the market, food offers a good insight into a place's history and culture. I visited a restaurant serving the traditional local cuisine. As I entered, the smell of incense and coffee beans wafted in the air. The Four Sisters restaurant is a serene spot in the midst of a bustling city, brightly decorated with Ethiopian art. It gives visitors a great sensory experience of the local culture.
I can't go to Gondar without tasting Gondar food. And they say that this is the most popular place here, Four Sisters, cooked by Four Sisters. Of course, I have to have injera.
Injera is a flat, spongy circular pancake made from fermented batter of teff grains. What is a general term for a thick stew? It can be made of vegetables, beef, lamb, or chicken, but never pork, as prescribed in Ethiopian religious laws. You tear a piece of injera and eat it with a wat and other side dishes.
Wow, this looks a little bit strange, but it's really good. Spicy lamb? It's great.
What sets Ethiopian cuisine apart is the mix of spices that create an intense and unique flavor. Evidence suggests that the Ethiopian Aksumite kings traded with parts of Asia thousands of years ago. This early exchange of goods resulted in one of the most complex cuisines this side of Africa. Up next, I get into the heart of Gondar and marvel at its legendary castles, while finding the most intricate examples of Ethiopian religious art, places said to be built by emperors and guarded by angels. I am still exploring Gondar, Ethiopia's ancient capital. Walking along an expanse of stone towers and their battlements, you would think that I had stepped into medieval Europe. But in fact, these grand castles are in the heart of Africa, Ethiopia's very own Camelot. Every empire has a great builder, and for the Abyssinians, or ancient Ethiopians, it was Emperor Fasilides who decided that he would no longer live in nomadic camps, but instead build a strong royal capital. Gondar's elevation offered a strategic vantage point. It was free from malaria-carrying mosquitoes, and it had a fresh water source. The result is a 7-hectare royal enclosure called Fasil Gebi, with grand fortresses built by Fasilides and his successors.
Sometimes you wonder how majestic these places were before, and it has turned out to be what it is today.
Most buildings are done in the Gondarian style, a mix of Portuguese, Hindu, Arab, and Aksumite architectural styles influenced by the exchange of cultures at that time. It housed banquet halls, offices, churches, and a library.
And this is the lion cage. Castle must have a lion to remind people of the symbol of the country.
If the stone walls could talk, it would tell tales of the golden age of emperors, of cultural crossings, war and passion, within and without. A mythical, castled city, indeed a true Camelot. Just outside the enclosure, we find another curious structure. This massive pool is one of Ethiopia's most sacred sites.
This is the Fasilides Bath. This is 2 kilometers away from the castle, but the king decided to build it here because it's very close to the river.
For its sheer size, it's a real engineering marvel. The stone is now engulfed by thick roots of ancient banyan trees, making the place more fairy tale-like.
This is a tunnel where the water from the river comes out and fills up this pool. I would say it's about 3 meters. Quite deep.
It continues to be used until the present day as a ritual bathing site for the festival of Timket, celebrating Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River. For 3 days, devotees would flock into this pool to have themselves blessed by holy water. Such is the religious fervor of Ethiopians and their kings that numerous churches were built around Gondar.
The rulers built 44 Orthodox churches. All 43 were destroyed by the invading Muslims, except this one. And the reason for that is because the bees around these trees attacked the invaders, and so it was spared.
Aside from the swarm of bees, it is said that the Archangel Michael himself stood between the Muslim army and the church, carrying a flaming sword. Perched on top of a hill, the Debre Birhan Selassie Church is a celebrated sacred site. Guarded by 12 dome pillars representing the 12 apostles. Its stone walls and thatched roof belie the treasures concealed inside. Vivid paintings of biblical scenes cover every inch of the church. The Holy Trinity and crucified Christ hang over the altar. Depictions of the Virgin Mary, saints and martyrs fill the walls. A graphic rendition of hell remind the faithful to be vigilant. These visual renditions were made for those who are unable to read but want to understand the Bible. But one striking feature inside the church is its beamed ceiling. Rows upon rows of cherubs peer down devotees, representing God's all-knowing and ever-present nature. The church has some of the best preserved examples of Ethiopian art, which is very distinct. The figures are almost cartoonish, with large almond eyes, and colors are very bright and vivid. Because of Ethiopia's relations with the early Coptic church in Egypt, their iconography and art is quite similar. The Debre Birhan Selassie Church is a real hidden treasure here in Gondar. It was amazing to visit the city's church and castles, which echo a bygone era where power rested on the royal and the religious. Up next, from the city, I climb higher to behold the beauty of the Simien Mountains. Get to know life in these high-altitude slopes, while finding unique creatures that are the last of their kind. From the busy streets of Gondar, I made my way up the mountain roads that lead to Ethiopia's northern highland region. We passed stunning scenery as we drove through the hilly countryside. Soon, the tall peaks making up the Simien Mountains came into view. I settled into our lodge, perched on top of a cliff. Blending seamlessly with the magnificent surroundings, the Lima Limo Lodge is such a welcome escape from the bustling city. The hotel is built and managed in the strictest ecological standards, making sure they operate with a low impact on the environment. With its minimalist design, it's instantly clear that the main attraction here are the views. Out here, it feels like you are cut off from the rest of the world. Together with the local guide Bogie, I went off to explore this otherworldly landscape. Hiking is the order of the day, as Bogie educates me on the local flora and fauna.
So Bogie, this is, you were saying poisonous.
Yeah, it's wild tomato. It's
Okay.
poisonous, but the local people, they use it to washing clothes like in a soap.
Oh, you can wash the clothes with this.
Yeah. They'll collect in the fruit. When it's dry, they'll crush to by stone. When it's in a powder, they will add water and then any clothes to use from this plant.
Overhead, highland birds dominate the skies.
So many birds flying around, vultures, ravens, eagles. This is really nice.
With their wings catching the winds, they perform a kind of dance over the valley.
What a view. And they say this was formed by a volcanic eruption. I can camp out here and just take it easy.
The Simien Mountains were shaped some 40 million years ago. Volcanic activity, uplift and erosion formed these dramatic cliffs and pinnacles. 80% of Africa's tallest mountains can be found in this area that Ethiopia is often called the roof of Africa.
It's a good place for me to sort of think about a lot of things, your life.
Bogie and I continued on our trek, pausing every now and then to appreciate the unbelievable beauty of this place. Once described as the chess pieces of the gods.
Look at these rocks and this cliff. It's so dramatic. And the grass is not like your regular grass. It's like falling down, lying around. We're about 10,400 feet now above sea level. So it's more difficult for me to breathe, but I think if we go really slow, we'll manage to find some baboons and some other animals.
Our mission was to find the highlands resident Gelada baboons, a unique species that can only be found here.
You saw all those mountains earlier? I climbed all of those looking for these baboons, and now they say they're out there. Can you see them? 2 mountains to go. I'll be there very shortly.
As we continued our trek, I was lucky to find some of the locals living here and get a glimpse of life in this high-altitude setting. Families live on subsistence agriculture and tending of livestock. Local crafts are also being made to sell to passing hikers. We chanced upon a group of kids and their wares.
This one? What is this? Yeah, it's a hat.
It's made from the animal, these ones, from the sheep. Also, this is also made from by decoration.
They were a happy bunch and decided to teach me the traditional Ethiopian shoulder dance to the beat of a folk song.
Oh, he's dancing.
In exchange, they wanted me to teach them a Filipino folk song, which I did to the best of my ability.
Bahay, kubo, kubo, kahit munti, ang halaman doon ay sari-sari. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you.
We edged closer to the baboons we saw earlier, distracted and delayed only by the numerous picturesque spots.
Here's another baboon poop. So I guess I'm getting closer to them. But if you look out, it's never-ending nice views. After so many mountains, I finally found them. Here they are. All these baboons just walking around peacefully. I hope I don't disturb them. Here's a bunch of kids and juveniles. There's one with a baby being carried by his mom. And that one looks like an alpha male with the long hair. This one, big male. Oh, look at him tumbling in. This is very interesting. They're herbivores and they don't actually eat meat. That's why it's very safe to walk around them. And they're only found here in the Simien Mountains.
Geladas are very intriguing. They are not actually baboons, but a unique species called Theropithecus, the only grass-grazing monkeys in the world. They are the last of their kind. Males are bigger and hairier than females, but both have a prominent red chest. They live in large herds, feeding during the day and sleeping by the side of the cliffs at night.
They're all over me. See that kid jumping around?
Another curious thing about geladas is the way they communicate. Compared to other apes, the sounds and facial movements they make are much more complex, almost speech-like. Scientists believe this developed so they can communicate to each other within a large group.
There was a time that they were almost extinct because people were killing them for their coats and using them for winter. But nowadays, they're being protected and conserved.
The geladas are some of the most remarkable, rarest creatures on Earth. And I am very lucky to see them in their natural habitat. Ethiopia never fails to amaze. Journeying across a different side of this vast country, I discover a rich, ancient capital and a people swept with the same religious fervor as their ancestors. In its majestic cliffs and peaks, I find a breathtaking landscape, a unique species, and an entirely different way of life. It is a place that allows you to disconnect, reflect on your life, and find your place in this vast world.
This has been your captain, Joy Roa. See you in the next Asian Air Safari.